Hello guys, welcome to another LEGO Worlds Let's Build. Today we're going to be building this X-Wing fighter that I'm just swirling around right now. It's quite a long build, but hopefully you can see from this that the results are worth it. And as always with LEGO, you can just keep on copying and pasting whenever you want. Start off with a 2.2x4 slope. That's what we're going to use to build the main canopy of the actual X-Wing fighter. I'm going to make it a transparent brown, so that's the glass. So you're going to put 2 blocks either side, and then you're going to put 2 blocks on top of each other, which I'm just going to show you now. Okay, so you want to use metallic sand blue, and this is the outer frame of the canopy. All I've done so far is I've just built the basic inner shape of the glass, and now I'm going to put the canopy frame on the outside of it. I go out 1 block to the right of it, and I just follow the slope of the glass I already put in. Obviously you can't get a perfect slope with that, but it looks pretty good at the end. It's quite a small block, so you get a decent taper on it. And as before, we're using the transparent dark brown just to put some window panels in at the top. So there's a few redos on this side because I was just trying to get the shape right on the left hand side, but I slowed down the video a little bit when I get around to the other side so you get a better chance of looking at it. But what you're trying to do is just give it that iconic X-Wing cockpit shape, and you achieve that just by creating like a sort of like triangle coming up at the left hand corner that just goes into the top left hand corner. Do that on both sides, and then fill in the glass on the inside of it after you've done that. And as you can see here, I've made that shape the right shape, but I did it 1 block too low, so I've just had to correct that here, and I'm just doing that now for you. Okay, so now I'm starting to put together the front nose cone of the X-Wing. This has to come out quite a long way, and initially when you first put it down you think, really, is it that long? But yeah, it is. It's quite a long snout, if you want to call it that. And what I did was I used a picture off the internet, and I kept on looking at it on my laptop and just seeing if I had the dimensions right. And yeah, you have to go quite a long way out. What I've then done is I've used the inverted slope blocks at the front just to give it that really nice sort of taper on the front, and I've used the inverted double blocks underneath just to cap it off underneath the front of the nose cone. Then I'm using 1x2 inverted slopes, putting that on the left hand sides just to taper it a bit more. Then I'm going to fill in on the inside so that it gives it a nice sort of continuity to the front nose cone. Using the 1 in 3 inverted slope, just give it a little bit more of a taper on the bottom. Just do it there, and as you can see there's some gaps here, so I have to fill those in on the inside. And then just use those 2x2 blocks all the way back, and just do that on both sides, so it's 2 blocks wide, and that goes down the centre core of the nose cone. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use sloping blocks inverted and also the right way up to create that kind of bowing that occurs on the main outer chassis. So I've got the curves at the side of the window and the cockpit there, but it tapers in as it gets towards the front of the nose cone. So I went a little bit too far there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a smaller slope so that it just tapers it in a bit more. So using the 1x1 wedge, which is a smaller triangle, put that there just to the front here and bring it along, and as you can see that tapers it quite nicely. But again, it needs to taper more than that, so just take off a few, take a third off of it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go flat on the inside. I'm going to use the 1x2 brick to do that, but I'm going to use the grill brick instead. Now this gives it a little bit more texture, and I've used this in many places as I can, and you'll see me going over this in a few times wherever I use the grill brick, because occasionally what I do is I'll overlap some of the grill bricks so it creates areas of texture and areas of flatness, and that just gives it a bit more randomness when you're looking at it. It makes it look a little bit more rebellious, you know, adds more detail to it. Looks like the ship's a bit more busted up, a bit scratched, that kind of thing. Then just choose a 2x2 flat tile and use that just to cap off the top of it, and that gives it a nice smooth finish on the top there. Now use the 1x2 inverted slope on the underside. Now you have to go one block into the existing blocks we've already used. Maybe I could have got around that and not put those blocks in the first place, but it's just one of those evolving decisions as I made it. So bring it in one, so I had to nudge it out a little bit, so that will overwrite one of the blocks on the bottom. And as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm creating a slope off of the top and a slope coming up from the bottom, and that creates the nice sort of tapering of the nose cone. Do that all the way along to the end. And I also try to follow the tapering that I've done with the blocks on the top. So I've gone in the first third, the second third I've gone out one block, the second third, and the final third, which comes up to the cockpit, is going to come out again. So I just bring out that block a little bit further out. I'm using the same block the whole time. I haven't changed blocks, it's still the 1x2 inverted slope, and just marry that all the way along the underneath. So as I got to the cockpit, I just went down one block, and you can still use the 1x2 inverted slope for that. I used a slightly fatter block just because it's quicker, and then I just fill in the gap in the centre with the grill brick, the same as I used at the front. Use the grill brick again, just bring it out underneath each section, and once you've done that, copy it on both sides. So I'm just finishing off the nose cone here, just trying to find the right tile to use for this, and what I ended up deciding to do was just use a flat tile at the back, leaving two blocks exposed. Then I used the 1x1/4 tile, and that gives it a little half circle at the front of it. It just gives it that little smoothing that's good. And I also use it one block lower down behind it, just to give it a slope at the back of the nose cone. And I'm quite pleased with that, it came out quite well. Now I use the 1x3 slope underneath, and what we're doing here is we're just tapering the two centre blocks in the inside. Now I try a couple of different options here, and those blocks that I put in at the moment are going to change. So what I decided to do instead is just use a flat tile. This is a one high but 2 deep tile, and I'm just using that to sort of carve out the shape that I want at the bottom, just to give it the tapering that I want. And I think it's a bit too harsh with the triangle that I've got there at the moment, so I'm just going to go over it using the tiles instead. It actually gets rid of those slopes, and I just step it down instead, and I think that looks better, and I'm pleased with that. So that's what I stuck with. Then I just use that to define where the bottom of the ship is going to be, and then I'm just going to fill it in. You could have just done this with any block, but I was just using a very thin block just to get an idea of what I was going to do. And what I've done is I've just gone one block inside of where that slope comes, so that you have that natural sloping and tapering going down to the bottom of the cockpit. And as we get to the engine section of the ship, it really suddenly gets a lot fatter behind the cockpit, and I've achieved that by using the 2x3 inverted slope. The position I've put these in initially, where I just literally connect them as you would expect directly onto the gap at the bottom of the slope, wasn't happy with it. It was too harsh a gradient. So what I've done is I've relayed them, but I've just gone one block back. So you've got the flat bit where you actually, if you look underneath, you can see where the Lego bricks would actually insert still, because you've gone one block further back. But it gives you a more tapered. It gave me the gradient I want. Now what you do is you put a 1x2 wedge at the back of the cockpit. Now what I did initially was I did it the wrong colour, so I have to do it the same as the rest of the cockpit, which, as we've used before, was the metallic grey blue. And then I just fill in underneath it. I just fill in the gap between the triangle going down and the cockpit. So now I'm just trying to get the proportions right. So I'm just bringing out the back of the ship, and then I zoom out, I look at the picture that I have of an X-Wing I found off the internet, and I look at it and think, well, is that the right distance? Here it is. And I put the grill bricks in again, just to give it a bit of texture. And as you can see, some of those areas, the grill bricks are overlapping. It gives it a nice smooth and grill, and, you know, breaks up the texture a bit more. You just fill it in, and as long as you've got the proportions right, you can't really go too wrong here. I've also added a smooth flat tile on top of the very top of these grill bricks, just to give it a nice smooth surface at the top. And then we're going to put R2-D2 in after this, once we've done that. And once we've got the R2-D2 in, or at least the position where it goes, we then start to figure out the rest of the proportions of where the engines go, and where I'm going to bolt the wings on, etc. Now I'm just filling in the rest of the gaps underneath the front of the nose cone. I'm using just a normal slate tile. I'm using a 2x2 slate tile, and I'm giving it a bit more tapering just at the bottom here. And again, I'm overlapping the bricks with the 1x2 inverted slope, and yeah, that looks great. I'm pleased with that. And I just decided that actually I'm going to bring out the tapering all the way to the back, and this also gives me somewhere to bolt the wings on, because I'm going to put the wings on the underside of where these inverted slopes are. I'm going to put the upper wings coming off of where the normal slope is at the top. You just do that 1x2 standard slope, just going all the way along. You just follow all the way to the end. Do that on both sides, and you've got the position for the wings are going to go now. Now just experimenting with R2-D2, I tried with a smaller rounded brick first off, and then I secondly did it too high, and I wanted to cap it with a smaller circle above it. And when I looked at it after I completed it, I just thought, no, that comes up too high. Because I looked at the picture I got off the internet again, and I noticed that R2-D2 doesn't come above the cockpit, it's a little bit lower. So I just brought it down one block, and I just put the smaller round circle on top of that 4x4 circular block. And that's good enough. I think that will do the job, and you could colour it yourself if you want to afterwards, just to make it more R2-D2 like if you want to. Now what we use is these quite interesting roof tiles here, which have got a grille built into them, and they've got a nice slope on them, and it gives you a bit of texture at the back, because if you look at the top of an X-Wing, there's a lot of texture going on, it's quite rough. I probably could have done a little bit more roughness on here, but I think it does the job as you see it being completed here, just by putting in those grill bricks that are sloped. And just filling in a gap underneath so it all marries up nicely, and then I'm going to fill in the gap that's in the centre there, just using a flat tile. Right, now for the wings. This is quite simple. So as I said before, you see where the slope just begins on the side? That's where we're going to put it. Initially, I tried a little bit too high, and then I looked at it from the behind, and it didn't look right. It came up too high, and it was too, as you can see, it's just in the wrong position. If you look at an X-Wing, it actually starts quite close to the centre. So I go a little bit lower, and just as soon as that slope ends, I just put that 6x1 tile in, and then I just go up in ones all the way up. And how far you bring this out is up to you, but me personally, I just did it until it looked long enough when I looked at it from the rear, and the proportions look correct. And I think that's about right. So I'm going to do that on both sides, obviously, and I'm going to cheat a little bit, because I'm going to do the wing coming down from the bottom, and then I'm going to copy and paste it using the copy tool. Now it's time to start on the engines. Now this is a bit tricky because the curved blocks that I used at the top, there aren't any equivalent curved blocks on the underneath, so I had to try and improvise the best as I could. This is what I came up with as a design. I'm going to just bring out all the blocks I used to make this, and you should be able to see how I did this so you can recreate it. And once you've made it, you're just going to copy it 4 times and put it onto each wing. Now there is a little bit of a difference which I didn't show in this video unfortunately, and that is that if you look at the engines at the back, the exhaust spouts actually come up higher at the top and lower at the bottom. So I had to cut off the exhaust ports and raise them up on the top after I did it. But the initial way I designed this has the exhaust ports coming out the lower part of the engine, which is fine for the bottom at the rear, but not the top. You have to cut them out and move them up just a little bit. But that's easy, just use the cut and paste tool. So I used a 2x2 curved slope for these tiles here that I'm just going through there. And I used a 3x3x2 arch brick for the end. Now just surround it with the flat tiles. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and create a curve using that 1x6 flat tile again. And it takes a little bit of work here because I'm trying to copy the curve that's on the upper part of it. It's not very easy because you're just using single blocks and there's no curved block that I could use there. But it works out and it does end up looking about right. And as you see this ship mainly from the top anyway, it kind of doesn't matter too much. Then I use a quarter tile just to try and create a curve coming down from the sides, just to make it seem a little bit more of an organic shape at the front there and give it a bit more of a curve so it doesn't look quite so obvious that I just didn't have a block that was curved to put on the underneath. Create a little wedge in the centre and use that as the exhaust input. Initially I put a grill brick in there, but then I thought, well, actually it needs to go in a block. And I put the same grill brick in there, but I've just put it in one block deeper so there's a bit of an indent. And I colour it black as well, just to give it a bit of definition. So just copy the curve that you put on the other side of that engine, and this is going to be the rear of the engine. So what you now need to do is to put on the exhaust pipe that is a bit thinner that comes out the back, and I'm using that bowed ridge tile, and now I'm going to use the radiator grille just to add some heat sinks to the outside of it. Make it look a bit more engine-y, and but it's still thinner than the main engine piece that's at the back there. And what I'm going to do is try and create a pipe-like effect with a bit where it just comes out a little bit more towards the end where the outlet is. So I'm just following that that curve using the radiator grille tile, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to break that curved tile on the last piece of it. It doesn't matter though, because it will destroy the entire tile and turn it all to standard blocks, which you can see there. You've got a lumpy bit in the black. It doesn't matter, actually adds to it, gives it a tapering and makes it look a bit more rougher, looks more like an engine, and gives the effect I was after. Now what you want to do is just fill in the underneath so that the tapering of the pipe looks the same from both sides. Again, we don't have an upside down curved brick, so that would have been ideal, but we don't. So we're using flat tiles again. We're going to just put some ingot tiles on the top and the bottom there just to give it a bit more definition. And like I said, now we're going to put the underside of the pipe in. So I just need to find a flat tile. So I'll just have a look through here. Going to go back to Lightstone Grey because that's the colour that I want. Go to the 2x2 flat tile, fill it in under here so that it tapers from the underneath as well as at the top. And bring it down a little bit more here at the bottom because that's the point where it's actually going to connect and bolt onto the wings. Now, as I said earlier, that pipe that's coming out the back of the engine, when you put the engine on the upper wings, you need to cut that pipe off and bring it up about 2 blocks and then reattach it where level with where the curved bit is on the back. That's because on an X-wing, the pipes are higher at the top and they're lower at the bottom. Now just using that radiator tile again, we're just going over the last, we're overlapping by 1 block on the inside, just go 1 deep all the way around there, and that just gives it that red glow at the end just to make it look like that's where the fire spits out of the back of the engine. Now what you can do is you can use a glow block so it actually lights up so it looks like it's a proper engine that's firing. I thought about that, and I might actually do that later, but you can do that now if you want. And as you can see, I'm just putting those engines on. Now there's a mistake there because those exhaust ports at the back need to come up a bit. So I'm just going to cut those off later and raise them up 2 blocks. That's all I'm going to do, and then just maybe put a few blocks in there to fudge it. For the underneath, this engine as it's designed here is exactly right. It doesn't need changing. Now this bit's actually quite hard to see. I'm using very small blocks and I'm just making the wings a bit fatter, just where the body joins onto the wings there. I'm just doing that on all of the wings, so it looks like I'm just moving the nose cone around, but I'm not. If you look right in the centre of the screen, you can see that I'm just thickening the wings up there by about 3 blocks. Just follow the run of the wings underneath, not above it, and just make them thicker. And on the top wings, you make them thicker above where the engines join up. And I'm going to carry that on all the way along up to about a third up from the outside of the engine, and I'm going to make all of the wings thicker so that they're a bit chunkier, as you'll see very shortly. And just grab yourself a 1x6x5 brick at the back, great big chunky one, stick it right in the centre, which I've just done there, but leave it 1 block out from the body of the spacecraft. The reason you do that is so you can fill it in with the nice radiator grille brick afterwards. Go all the way up around the sides of it, and this just adds some gaps and some indents. It adds a bit of texture to it when you look at it from the side. And then go in 1 block and just fill in the body with the same brick. Make sure it's the radiator grille tile again. Just go all the way up there, and that just adds some nice texture to it. Right, and now we can start making the guns. Again, this is easy because you can just copy it 4 times. Create this shape, which is 1 in the centre, 2 down, and then the middle blocks are 3 deep. And just create that shape. Once you've created it, you can just copy it and then just paste it again and again to create a tube, which I've just done here. This is the chunky part of the gun where it attaches to the wing. And then what you need to do is go 1 block in with a single 1x1 tile, and just follow that curve, but go 1 in from each of those blocks. And then after you've done that out by 2, go out again, following the outside shape of it, and go around in a circle. So the tube goes in and out, so you get this shape here. And then just copy and paste the back section back onto the front. I didn't copy it all that time. So then do it properly. Copy there, bring it onto the front, and that makes it taper outwards, taper in, and you get a nice shape. Now what you do is you build the spear tip type design that you have as it starts to taper forward with the guns. I've done a bit of ad lib here, and I've just created some air gaps between it just to make it look a little bit more delicate, and also so it looks like that's where the heat can dissipate from the guns when they're firing. And I made this slightly too long at the front, as you'll see later, and to remedy that, all I do is I just cut off the end, paste it into a different part of the sky, and then I just cut out a chunk in the middle and I paste that end section back onto the front of it again, just to get it the right distance. But initially what I do is get this design here, I copy the whole thing, I move it over to the wing, and then I have a look to see if it looks right. And what I found after I did this was that tip of the gun comes way forward beyond the nose cone, and they should be just about level with the nose cone as per the picture that I got on the internet. So that's why I had to cut it out, and that's why I adjusted what I was doing. Now we're almost finished. What I need to do now though is the X-Wing's wings at the front are flat, but the rear they taper upwards in a triangle to meet the body of the spaceship. And what I've done is I've staggered it by 4 blocks going up. So it goes 4 blocks, then out 1, then 4 blocks, then out 1, and 4 blocks, then out 1 until it meets the top of the ship. And then I just fill in the gaps between them so that it marries up with the other part of the wing that's already built. And you repeat that 4 times. The good thing about this is you can copy and paste from one side to the other. Oh, actually, no, you can't, because if you flip it, it goes around the wrong side. So you have to do all of this manually. But there is a little trick that makes this easier. When you get to the wing at the top, as you're laying the blocks, it leaves a little shadow on the blocks directly underneath. And if you see a shadow on the block that's at the very end, you're in the right position. So that makes it a lot easier. And you can see there, you see the shadow just at the bottom? Each time I lay one, I'm looking to see where the shadow is. I've now done all 4 wings, and that's looking good. It's almost there. There's 2 more final touches I need to do. There's some more structural pieces that come out in like chunky sort of wedges on the points at the top of the wing and on the bottom of the bottom wings, and I'm just putting that in now. Really all you do is you just get some tile blocks, bring it out a little bit, make it a bit chunkier near the front, and bring it up so it looks like you've got a wedge which structurally holds the positions where the wings clip together. I've done the top, and just copy what I've done there but in the inverse on the underneath. And as you can see, what I'm just doing here is I'm just making the wing a bit thicker on the outer side, and I go down about 2/3 of the wing with that, and the last third of the wing is only 1 block deep. It's still very thinner wing at the end. Now you need to just paint it. Now I've chosen mud as the paint. Now you might think, well, why didn't you use red? Mud works well because it every second block it uses a red colour and the other one's brown, and this gives you that dirty sort of weathered rebel look that you're after. And you can be fairly liberal with this. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter if you copy me exactly. Just sort of splurge all over the wings and try and create some sort of interesting designs like I've done here. Make them roughly symmetrical, but again, because it's the Rebellion and they don't have an awful lot of conformity in their designs, you can sort of splash it all over the place. You just need to make sure you've got some of those touches of red all over it. And that is the completed build done. It's quite a complex build, but as you can see, it's comes out looking fairly good. I think it's a fairly realistic reimagining of the X-Wing, and once you've built this once, you can copy and paste and build as many as you want. You can add it to your catalogue of builds. So thank you very much for watching this, and don't try and do this block for block, but hopefully this gives you inspiration and gives you a good understanding how I did this. Please like, comment and subscribe, and let me know if you want me to build more Lego creations or stick with more Minecraft. I'm going to build another Minecraft video fairly shortly. Thank you very much, bye!